CMC joint. So that stands for the carpal metacarpal joint. And we're going to measure abduction this way, right? So we're going to line up the stationary arm on the midline of the second metacarpal, and we're going to line the moving arm is going to be along the first metacarpal, and the axis is going to be somewhere around the radial styloid process. Now, I talked to several of you as I went around. The ulnar styloid process was a little bit too proximal for many people, and you weren't able to really bisect that metacarpal. Don't be shy. Go ahead and pull that axis down further so that you're for sure bisecting the segments, okay? So here, we're also, again, if we were going to do this, and this is almost more of a soft tissue end feel because I'm getting tension in the web of your hand more than I'm getting a capsular end feel. So now, you know, the starting position would be here. So they would be lined up, but I'm going to go ahead and start you here. Now I'm going to do active range of motion, so go ahead and bring it out as far as you can. Now this one we're measuring carpal metacarpal joints, so we don't look at the phalanges, we're really looking at the metacarpal, and we're bisecting those, and go ahead and relax for me. And I'm getting 0 to 32 degrees. Now the norms for this is 0 to 70. I've never in the history of mankind seen 70 degrees of that motion. Especially when you're looking here. So, but I have double and triple checked that norm, so it's just kind of a goofy norm. All right, what's the next one? Is extension? Flexion. All right, so flexion. So flexion and extension are ones, for those of you who are far away, I don't know if you're counting on watching the video or what, but you can't possibly be seeing what I'm going on for as far back as you are. So I'm going to have you go ahead and have your, are you comfortable? You look like you're a little bit uncomfortable. So this one you're going to have a starting position, and you're going to have to subtract the starting position from your end position, okay? And this is going to be true for both flexion and extension. So again, we're measuring CMC motion, and so we're going to be aligning the stationary arm with the radius, and then we're going to come and bisect that, that metacarpal. Okay, so my first number, quite conveniently, is, oh my gosh, what am I? I'm at 30 degrees, which, if you guys gave me a number like that, I wouldn't believe you. But, okay, now for flexion, we're looking at moving this joint. I'm gonna have you move your thumb across. Now, somebody asked me a great question about what's the difference between CMC flexion and opposition, because they both look very similar. Really, opposition is about cupping the palm, where flexion is simply moving your thumb across. It's a pretty subtle difference, okay? So we're here, so I'm gonna have you go ahead and come across. So again, we're trying to be bisecting that segment. Okay, and relax. So we're getting 6 degrees there, and I started at 30, so her range would be 0 to 24. Okay, so I'm calling this 0 even though I'm measuring 30, and then I'm measuring how far she went. Now, for some people, you may actually get to the point where you cross 0, so just make sure that you're doing that math correctly. Okay? Now, for extension of the CMC, it's going to be the exact same way. And then we're going to go ahead and measure. Go ahead and just slide. Yep, there you go. Good. So our starting position was 30. I didn't double check it, but I'm going to assume that I was right. And go ahead and relax. And now we're at, oh my gosh, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Yeah. I'm not doing it on purpose. So it should be 0 to 20 for extension at our CMC. Okay? So when we're measuring abduction, we're measuring it this way, and our goni is lined up like this, right? And when we're measuring flexion and extension of the CMC, I'm just going to manhandle you, sorry. We're starting here, and this is where you're going to have that starting number, and you need to subtract it from your final number. Okay? But we still document 0 to whatever. That was it for the CMC, right? Oh, opposition. So opposition is a tricky one. So we measure opposition as a joint motion together, and what I'm gonna have you do is try to keep all of your fingers straight, and I want you to bring them as close together as possible. And what we're gonna be doing is measuring the distance from your IP crease to the MCP crease of your fifth digit. And so then what you're gonna do is measure in centimeters. I did this class really literally 30 years ago on manual therapy class in the back, and the guy always said centimeters. And every time still 30 years later, every time I say centimeters, I can hear his voice in my head going, centimeters. So we're measuring from this crease over to this crease, and I'm getting 3.6 centimeters. The norm is 0. You can get norm if you cheat, right? So don't cheat. Try to really keep all of your digits straight. And again, you're going from your IP crease to your MCP crease, and you're measuring that distance. Like, I can make them touch, right? But this is no longer straight. I flexed my MCP joint, so you want to keep those straight. Okay? All right, so now I think I've covered them all. So we talked about thumb abduction, we talked about CMC extension, CMC flexion, and then using the tape measure method, but although you should really use your ruler for the opposition. Okay? All right.